Hello, and welcome to another episode of Ask Adam Live. ASK is the acronym for Always Seek Knowledge. That's one thing I hope that this and each and every episode that I bring to you inspires you to ask, to always seek knowledge, to learn a little bit more about yourself, learn a little bit more about someone else, or maybe even the world not so around you. In this week's episode, the 12-week turnaround, we're going to understand how small shifts, daily discipline, create massive transformation. Now let's get started. Most people overestimate what they can do in a week and underestimate what they can transform in 12. Many people are always looking for the perfect time to reinvent themselves. Maybe it's lose weight, start a business, change their life, read different books, speak a different language, be someone different. "12 weeks is long enough to create a measurable change, but short enough that it keeps you emotionally engaged. I think you will find that this 12-week program can be applied to pretty much anything that you'd want to implement into your life. See, a year kind of feels overwhelming, right? How many of us have had those New Year's resolutions where January we make a plan and by March we can't remember what it is or even what it was. And then we create a new plan, only to find out maybe in June or July that summer's already here and you just don't have time for a plan. The 12-week is more actionable, right? It's more measurable. And truth be told, momentum really loves a deadline. It likes to know that there's something within reach. See, I think that's where that year or New Year's resolution fails every single time. One thing that I like to do is I place it more in a celestial mindset, and you can do the same with the 12-week program. I like to begin thinking about resolutions towards the end of that previous year, October, November, beginning of December. So on December 21st, which is the winter solstice, and by the way, the planets are all lined up, so kind of a good time if you want to change something, because you know the universe has your back. Stay with me. But by doing that, you forget about the year and you look at more of the celestial. So when you go through your 12-week option, and then all of a sudden it's, hey, it's spring. How am I doing? Hey, it's June 21st. Now it's summertime. How am I doing? I think if you break the year up into quarters and maybe even create those smaller goals within those quarters, like losing weight seems to be a popular thing, but let's just say get in shape. You want to feel better about yourself. So you start eating better for those 12 weeks. And as you're feeling better, the next challenge might be, hey, I want to feel energized, not just feel better. So then you implement that into the next 12 weeks. And now you're eating better and feeling energized. What's the next feeling that you want to feel? Now you implement that into the third set of 12 weeks. See how this begins to grow? This is where momentum loves a deadline. As I said, I've implemented this 12-week program into my life several times, whether it was a career pivot or health improvement, even a mindset, especially the mindset. I will tell you that it did take about a year and a half, but it was progressively going through each one of the things in that mindset, like just getting how I thought about things changed. That was pretty tough. That was a brutal, that alone just encompassed 12 weeks. And that was enough. To add anything else onto that was pretty tough. But once I mastered that, well, we're all continuing to master that. Let me back up. Once I learned to kind of wrangle that in and really get a hold of it, now I implemented something else in my mind where I started thinking differently. Now I was acting differently. And for those second 12 weeks, not only was I thinking, but now I was acting. And my thinking and my acting turned into another 3 weeks of the next step. Business launches are the same thing. You can't expect to have a line of people outside of your Lou pants is the only thing I can think of offhand, but those silly Lou pants, that everybody's lining up outside of your door because you came up with the greatest invention. It takes time. But as you implement the process through your business launch, then the lines eventually show up at the door. And then you're like, hey, it finally happened. But it doesn't happen overnight. We could even take this a step further as far as relationship healing. Now, I know that might be a touchy subject for some of you, and I can raise my hand too. We've all been there. Work on yourself for that first 12 weeks. Understand more about yourself and build that self-confidence. Because once you have that self-confidence, now you can step it into maybe learning how to adjust your thinking about that other person. Now, I'm not saying that this is the end all be all. It could be while you're in action and you just tell, again, your partner, you have a deadline. I need time to work on myself. And maybe you're still engaging a little bit together, but it's that separation. And then you start understanding the other person for the next 12 weeks and really focus on that. Because I'm a pretty firm believer that the togetherness didn't happen by random. Although you think it did, it was pretty purposeful. And if you really look at how you felt, what you did, not distracted, but truly how you felt, there was a genuine feeling. Ladies out there, you know what I'm talking about. There's that genuine feeling that you truly admire, are attracted to that significant other. Because you're so emotionally based, you'll find that through this process, you can heal that relationship. Now, I'm not saying it does it for everything, but if you give it some time, at least say you honestly tried with 3 segments of 12, then I'm going to pat you on the back and just say, hey, you know what? You gave it your best try. And maybe you were really blinded by the situation and it just absolutely was not a good fit. And that's fine. That's okay. It's time to move on and find the next. But from that process of those 3 segments of 12, you've learned so much more about yourself as well as the other person. And if you go back to one of the episodes where we did focus on relationships, those steps as well can help you. Even a financial reset. Hey, we've all gotten overwhelmed by financial burdens. Maybe we found ourselves in an overwhelming amount of debt and just couldn't seem to make things work. But in that first week, into the first 12, that you start looking at just what can I pinch? What can I remove from the budget? What is unnecessary? And once you do that, well, then you start finding that you're saving a little bit. And then once you discover that there's some freed cash, maybe you start adding into the savings account. Now you can spend the next 12 saying, okay, now that I have some disposable income or refocusable income, now we can pivot that towards paying off debt. So spend the next 12 weeks really focusing on paying off debt. Now that you've discovered how to save, you continue to save and you pay off some debt. Now, once you've done that, you can focus on to the third step. again, I really want to implore that so much of what I share with you, I feel is universal, can be applied to almost anything. Transformation doesn't happen all at once. It happens through repeated days. See, the big idea, the goal is not perfection. The goal is focused activity, emotional consistency, identity repetition, and measurable movement. See, activity is an action repeated over and over until it becomes power. See, power isn't something you have to try to do. Something Power is something that comes automatically through you, through these repeated activities. Some people like to call it discipline. I just think repeated activities. The more you do something, the more it becomes habitual. And through that habit, now you gain power, right? Just through the habit of pinching. Let's go to the most recent is financial. So as you start to figure out opportunities to save, well, now you have the power to pay things off. And then once you have things paid off, now you have the overwhelming ability to save because not only have you removed the debt and you've pinched out some of the unnecessaries in your life, well, now you have an overwhelming amount of saving. And I can share with you that through my personal transformation in this several years ago, was that it now allowed me to do things I never thought I would do, or I shouldn't say that. I wanted to do them. I just couldn't. And I couldn't ever picture or figure a way how to do it. But it wasn't figuring out that specific thing of how do I go on vacation and do wonderful things. I had to dial it back. I had to dial it back to my finances. And how do I straighten that up? To not just go on another vacation to add some more debt to continue to pay something off. Instead, it was through those practices that I learned that now I could overwhelmingly save. Now I could go on amazing, overwhelming vacations because I had the cash to do it. And I found that those things that I pinched for my life, well, they honestly weren't as great as the vacations I was going on and the trips and the places I was discovering. Far beat the subscriptions I was paying for just to preoccupy myself. And honestly, I found myself rediscovering books that I had had in storage for years. I know I'm getting a little off track, but I've really found more enjoyment and relaxation by reading a book than necessarily watching a streaming service. Now, I understand we all have our vices. And if you happen to have one or two and it falls into the budget, great. There's some amazing productions out there right now, some amazing series, really great writing. I don't want to mention any names, but you know what I mean. There's some really great content out there. If you're following some of that, great. Like I said, we all have a small vice we get to hold on to, but not all of them. Repetition is the mother of all skill, and praise is the father. Remember, as I've said before, see it, say it, move it, praise it. The 12-week turnaround. Let's start with the framework of week 1 through week 2. This is the reset. First of all, the focus. You want to clear mental clutter and create awareness. I know this is difficult. Just clear everything out. I know you're going to find things that are really important, but wipe it out. Literally, you want to wake up one morning and say, I absolutely don't know what to do today. That is when you know you're on the right track. So clear the mental clutter. And it may take a day or two. So don't think that the 12-week starts right away. Clear out the mental clutter. Whatever it is that you're worried about, whatever it is that's going on, unless it's detrimental to life, get rid of it. If it's just that random coffee with friends or something like that, just wipe it off the schedule. Because what this is doing is we're going to start auditing our habits. We're going to audit our energy. We're also going to audit our environment. Is there things around you? Publications? Is it your phone? Is it a device? Is it things that aren't healthy or helping you? You need to get that from your environment. As we were talking about health earlier, do you like to keep that random box of junk food? Audit your environment. Identify what is draining you. So spend these first couple days just figuring this out and looking around. And it may be, well, it's not maybe, it's going to be slightly difficult because there's going to be a very uncomfortable stillness through this process. And you might find yourself just being still. This is where I might incorporate thinking about that journal, thinking about what you're going to write. We'll get into that later, but try to preoccupy yourself because this is kind of where it can be distracting and easy to tap out. Well, because, yeah, the motivation's just not there yet, but stay with it. Remember, we want to focus in on what is stealing your focus. What habits are keeping you stuck? These are things in this peace, in this quiet moment, in this auditing that we want to look at. Also, what story are you repeating daily? When you get up, go through your morning routine, and maybe you see something, again, this is part of your environment. So maybe you're getting up and turning on television right away, and you happen to see an ad of something pretty fantastic, and your immediate thought is, oh, I can't do that, or I can't afford that, or I can't whatever. Well, those are things you're repeating daily that keep reminding not only yourself, but your neuro system that you're not able. And that's just feeding really poison to a beautiful plant, such as yourself. So look at what you're repeating daily. See, the software that you provide your brain, well, it informs it how to respond. It's really no different than a computer. So if you're constantly putting in the error encrypted software, well, that's all you're going to keep getting is warnings and reminders that you can't do this, that you need to wait, that you need to reboot, that it's just not able to process. And that can become devastating because you don't see the future when you're getting that kind of feedback. So in this first couple of days, in the stillness, as I always say, what we write, we invite. But this time, I'm going to ask you to create a stop doing list. Remember, we're auditing this week. We're looking at things. I'm not saying you got to flip your house upside down and change the world. I'm just saying start looking at these things and start making a checklist and find yourself going through the process of cleaning the environment, cleaning what you say to yourself, cleaning out how you start your day. Do you have some simple activities that you could do? Even if you went on YouTube and found some exercise videos that are 5 to 7, 15 minutes long and played those, put that on your big screen TV and jump around in your living room for 15 minutes. And then start your day, cleaning up, taking a shower, getting dressed. Start those better habits. Change your routine. And again, it's going to be uncomfortable because you're going to want to go back to the norm. This is probably the toughest, but it's the most crucial step. This is the foundation. And if I can just interject here for a second, this is the first. You've really got to work on this. And you've got to be serious with true intention. Because this first building block, not only is it the hardest now, doing something different, This is going to be the hardest for the next endeavor. The next 12 weeks, this building block is just as hard. So get used to the uncomfortableness and the change. In fact, I like to look forward to the change, and I find myself a little bit in an anticipatory fashion, being excited about, sort of the no pain, no gain is, man, if I do this, how wonderful is it going to be? When I do this, how much better will I feel? When I do this, when can I start planning that time out and go on that vacation and go on that wonderful destination? So I kind of keep reminding myself, same thing. Every time I try something new in the business, same thing. We go through this 12-week process of seeing what's working, what's building. And it's frustrating at first. That first week of anything is awful. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but you got to have the mindset of what that future is going to look like to get through that first. Because every new endeavor that you start, every first 12 week, hardest. The first 12 week, hardest. Once you go from that, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, now you got momentum. I digress. As we move forward, weeks 3 and 4, this is the rebuild. What we're focusing on now is installing our foundational habits. The key areas, and this is important: sleep, hydration, movement, journaling, scheduling, and in that is our focused work blocks. People try to scale chaos. You can't build a strong future on inconsistent patterns. So if you're sleeping, napping, working, sleeping, napping, it's not consistent. If you're drinking 32 ounces, 64 ounces of water, and then you don't do it for a day, well, that's not consistent. And I know the jury is still out on what the perfect amount of water is, but it's how you feel. Get up in the morning, drink some water. Mid part through the day, drink some water. Through the evening, drink some water. Before you go to bed, drink some water. Movement. If you're in a position of occupation that has you sedentary, get up and move. Be inventive and figure out, if you have to make some phone calls, figure out how to do that while you're moving, even just walking or wandering. Step around. Get a remote headset, something that will allow you to move around when you don't necessarily need to write things. Maybe there's some conversations you don't need to take notes. I also encourage to have a vertical desk of some kind where you're sitting, standing, sitting, standing. You've got to move around. As I mentioned before, what we write, we invite. Journaling. This is part of the rebuild. And many times this journaling is not necessarily how you felt the day before. It's how you want to feel tomorrow. What are you looking forward to tomorrow? What are you looking forward to next week? Seeing the future. What does the end of the 12 weeks look like for you? And as you continue to write that, and we've discussed in several Neuro sessions, but it bears repeating, that what we write, we invite. So as your hand is writing things on a piece of paper and your eyes is reading what you are writing, it's a loop of writing, reading, thinking, and it ingrains in that neuroencoding pathways into your mind. This is very important stuff. Don't journal negatively. I know I've said before, but that was kind of another reason. And maybe on the first week, if you want to, fine. But I encourage you, use a separate piece of paper. Don't use the positive binder. That first week, if you want to write out some negative stuff and just sort of vent and get it out, absolutely. But then you need to ball it up, throw it in the trash, take it out to the park, light it on fire, whatever. But you need to get rid of it, not have it part of your binder. This week 3 and 4, This is your positive journal. You want to be writing about the future. You want to be writing about next week, next month, next year, 5 years, 10 years, whatever your point of measurement is, that's what you want to be focused on. Remember, we're rebuilding, and we don't want anything from the past being part of our future. Scheduling. Remember, you got to have this quiet peace time. This is about you. This is your time. So have focused work blocks where you're journaling, not watching TV, not answering the phone, not tending to any family affairs. Schedule your time to be at peace and really focus on this. See, complexity is the enemy of execution. So I want you to keep it simple. I want you to pick 3 non-negotiable daily habits. Like I said, journaling, exercising, and something else. Weeks 5 and 6, well, now we're going to refocus. Focus. We want to clarify the target. And these topics could be, the vision versus the dream. What is it that you want to do? And what is it that you would like to do? Intentional focus is important because what we focus on, well, it kind of shows up. And as I mentioned, you want to eliminate distractions through this process continuously. Anytime something is a distraction, I almost want you to stop and say, why is this here? Does it need to be here? If something is a distraction to you, maybe it's telling you it needs to be out of your life. For instance, if you have a television that you gravitate to constantly, give this a try. Go ahead and just unplug it, take it off the table or mount or wherever it is in your home, and go put it in the closet somewhere, in the guest room, in your basement, whatever. Get it away from you so it's no longer there to be seen. I'm not saying you got to throw the thing away, but for this process, you want to eliminate distractions. If your phone is something that's is a distraction to you, don't have it with you while you're journaling. Go journal in a different space. Keep your phone somewhere else. I also encourage you to mute your phone. Put it in airplane mode. Basically lock it out and be somewhere that you can't hear it, you can't see it, and it's not within reach. You need to protect your time. And this is important. See, your brain can't effectively chase 14 priorities. It can only manage 1, sometimes 2, because while you're doing something, you may be thinking about the next step, and that's okay. But just remember that when you start adding some more to it, now you're just distracted, and then you're going to get confused. See, a vision is a dream visited often with emotional intensity. So I want you to choose one primary target for the next 6 weeks. What is it that you truly want to do? As we mentioned earlier, is it a health concern? Is it a business concern? A relationship concern? Choose one primary target. And now we're going to focus on that for the next 6 weeks. You're feeling good at this point because we're about halfway through. This is where the rewiring begins. Now we're at weeks 7 and 8. This is transformation. You want to stop identifying as being stuck. Stop rehearsing your failures. Stop reinforcing your limitations. You want to start the new identity statements with, I am disciplined. I finish what I start. I move quickly. And I am becoming powerful. You can make any identity statement you'd like, but remember it's I am and you're doing. Not I am not getting this right. I am succeeding at what I want to do. And yes, can be a little confusing if it's not currently happening. But if you don't start putting something into motion, starting with your words and your mindset, it's going to be a lot harder than you think to make those changes and implementations in your life. So begin writing, begin saying, then doing. Also, followed by praise, because I know you're going to be successful. So your nervous system follows repetition. Personal development is rehearsing who you wish to become. I'm not a real fan of the statement, fake it till you make it, because I don't believe you're faking. I believe that you are creating your personal incantation. Now, we need to reinforce this so it sticks. Weeks 9 and 10, we're going to build proof through repetition, right? We're still doing these things each and every week. As you build these habits, they're going to continue to just be there to the point where you almost won't even think about it. It now becomes your norm. Now we're going to begin to track progress, celebrate some of these micro wins, and see that consistency wins over intensity, as well as praise the conditioning. You're going to see yourself in the mirror and go, who is that person? I didn't know they existed. Or you begin to see someone that, well, you wanted to see. As you wrote down who you wanted to look like, what you wanted to look like, the size of clothes you wanted to wear, now you become what you talked about, what you wrote about. Praise improves retention and performance. This is through research and study. You know, I don't practice theory. I practice what I've done, and I share with you that it can be done. So in this action, in this reinforced period, now we're going to start tracking daily wins. If it's available to you, I always recommend a spreadsheet. Part of this is you can put a date and you can put the activity. This way, you can create pivot tables, charts, and dashboards, and all sorts of creative things that show you how well you've grown and what you're doing. As I've mentioned in others, and please let me know if you're interested, I can certainly send it to you directly, is what I call 3 things to be grateful for. This is a yearly chart. Every day you write down 3 things that you're grateful for. Again, putting this in a spreadsheet. You can also tie in some of the different things that you do each day, such as journaling, maybe reading, maybe exercise. I love this because at the bottom column, it will show you how much you've done, creating a percentage that you can see throughout the year. And that's where I found a lot of my personal growth is with my 3 things to be grateful for Excel spreadsheet template, because it allows me to see where I'm lacking. Now I've enhanced my sheet because I also want to monitor how much golf I'm playing throughout the year. I want to monitor how much travel that I'm doing. And I can see that year after year, as I compress the previous years, I can see those percentages have grown, not by crazy focus, but just through my daily habits and practice. Again, I can't express to you that it doesn't happen overnight. But as you begin, the first of 12, well, then the next of 12 just becomes a little easier. So track your wins for up to 14 days. Week 11 and 12, now it's time to rise. You now have expansion and momentum. You're seeing the results, who you're becoming. What standards have changed in your life? What now feels normal that, it was in the distance and probably felt uncomfortable? You're now experiencing some really big shifts. You no longer try to change, you become someone different through repetition. And I'm sure you found by now, as I always say, success builds on success. So as you've created this through the process, you can begin to write your next 12-week version immediately before losing momentum. And again, as I mentioned, the first couple days are tough because, again, you're trying something new. On top of what you've already done, you're adding something to your plate. And that can be a little difficult. But look how far you've come already. So before you lose momentum, as you've gained so much in the first 12, you want to start writing down the ideas for the next 12, maintaining the first 12, or maybe getting rid of some habits you've discovered in the first 12 that aren't so great, implementing new ones in the second 12, and continuing the process. Let me just recap the 6 R's of the 12-week turnaround. The first is to reset. The second is to rebuild. The third is refocus. The fourth is to rewire. The fifth, that's reinforcement. And 6 is your time to rise. I encourage you to download the 12-week turnaround planner. Pick one area of your life to transform. Commit to 84 days of intentional repetition. And I invite you to share your journey using hashtag 12-week turnaround and tag at Ask Adam Live. You do not need a new year to become someone new. You need a new pattern repeated long enough to become permanent. This has been another excellent episode of Ask Adam Live, and I encourage you now to go out and make it a great day.